Hey, welcome everybody. How y'all doing today? I've got a couple of friends of mine here in the mortgage industry, and before we get started, I hope y'all are doing well. We are in some interesting times, aren't we? I tell you what, there's a lot of people out there that are fearful, and do any of us really know what's about to happen? No. But what I wanted to do, because I was listening to Johnny the other day, he had a Facebook Live and he was talking about some things that we'll visit about later. One of them was forbearance, and it really kind of hit me of, wow, because he was saying how many people were typing in and searching forbearance and different things like that. And I just realized, man, there's so many people out there that are scared, and maybe you're scared right now because your lack of information. Well, let's make sure today that all we do is let's just get the facts. Because if you have the facts, you don't have to worry. You might not like the information, but at least it's information and you can make an informed decision. So let's do this. In fact, I'll do it real quick, real fast. Let's relax a little bit. Sit back. If you have some coffee, if you got up late, right, grab your coffee. If not, grab your glass of iced tea, sit back and relax, and let's enjoy ourselves a little bit. Let me introduce Johnny and Charles real quick. Charles, say hello first. They're both with, oh, good gravy, Hancock Mortgage, man. How did I forget that? They're both with Hancock Mortgage. In fact, Johnny's the SVP of Hancock Mortgage, and Charles is a coach. And I tell you what, I'm going to talk a little bit more with Charles about his coaching, because that's a perfect way to describe Charles. Both these guys have hearts of a teacher. Why don't y'all, Charles? Why don't you go ahead and start out a little bit? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Coach Charles McCullough, I'm with the local base team. Our home base is here in Waco. And, I really got started doing this because there was so much confusion in purchasing a house. And, Johnny's story and my story are very similar. I'll let Johnny tell his a little bit in a minute. But, we went through, when my wife and I bought our house, we went through just an experience that we thought was normal. But it just wasn't. We found out that the person that was helping us was a little bit deceptive. And did I just go mute?
No, you're fine. Dave actually muted his mic.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to live TV, because I've got a couple of hound dogs and they decide they wanted to fight in the middle of the broadcast.
Well, that's kind of fun.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, what my wife and I experienced, we told the guy, hey, we can only afford $750 a month. And then a year and a half or a year later, our payment went over $1,150. And we just figured out why that happened. He kind of manipulated the escrow numbers. And so that's why I got started in this business, so that I could help educate people, help coach people through the proper process. Align myself with Hancock Mortgage because of their strong belief in doing the same thing and helping realtors educate their people as well.
Very good. All right, and you, Johnny?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, just a quick introduction of yourself. I know you've been in this since 1998. I did a little research on you. It's careful when I Google you, man.
1994.
1994. Wow. Go ahead.
So I've been in the mortgage business since 1994. I got into this business because the first time that I financed a home, I had a really bad experience. Loan officer, really bad system that I got stuck in. Actually, about halfway through the process, the processor actually said something sparked me and set something off inside me. And what that was she told me if I thought I could do a better job than to do it myself. So that's exactly what I did. I took some classes and learned a little bit about the mortgage business. And that was about 26 years ago now, and just fell in love with this business and kept going. But one of the biggest things, and this is how you and I met, is in 1994 when I became a loan officer. One of the things that I realized, was told to go visit agents and real. When I went to go visit real estate agents and real estate brokers that for some reason they were supposed to with their one and only transaction that they had this month. And I learned very quickly that if I didn't bring value to the marketplace, there really wasn't any need for me. And as time grew on, that became more and more apparent. What I mean by that is today, if somebody can't fund your loan on time, that is an anomaly because it's just not out there anymore. Bragging about closing loans in 13 days, everybody theoretically should be doing that. Obviously, the big box banks, they have a hard time doing that. But it's if you're not bringing value to the marketplace, and if you're not bringing value to your real estate partners in particular, then there's really no need for you in this business as far as I'm concerned.
I'm totally with you. In fact, I just typed that for a ticker because I think that's the saying of the day right now. In fact, just so everybody knows, we're going to kind of put this in two segments. The first part is going to be for first-time homeowners because I'm working with some first-time homeowners right now, and they're even scared of, is now the right time that they need to do something? More or less, what are all these terms that are thrown around? And then Charles is going to handle that part of it, and then Johnny's going to bring us home because you're talking about some crazy terms that are thrown around right now in the mortgage industry because of what's happening and things that are available to people to, well, hopefully help you and not hurt you. But then again, unless you have the facts, right, Johnny, they might actually hurt you in the long run unless you know what's coming. So let's get into the first part. If you don't mind, Charles, could you go ahead and take on this first part with first-time homeowners? Just treat me, because I literally have a gentleman right now that I just visited with on Saturday, that he's a first-time homeowner. He's doing well. He's newly married, just 6 months, and doing well financially. He just does not know what to do. So treat me like I'm him.
Yeah, no worries. So the big piece of the puzzle here is congratulations, you're ready to buy a house. And I'm proud of you for that. I'm proud of you for taking those steps. And in every aspect, owning a home is better than renting a home as long as it's set up properly and educated properly along the way. So my goal is to make sure that you know what you're doing so that when your best friend says, why did you go to him, or why did you talk to him, or why did you buy a home, you're educated enough to say, well, this is why I did it. And so, Dave, one of the biggest things for me that I hear a lot of, people just say, you got to go get a mortgage and not really understand even what the word mortgage means. And really all it is that's the term for the loan to buy the house. And so what we do locally is we're going to have a phone conversation. We're going to visit about your goals, and we're going to talk about very specifically what is your monthly budget for buying a house. And we want to make sure that monthly budget is going to fit inside your spending, because I have to sleep well at night also. I'm not going to let you buy something that is going to put you stressed out for purchasing. And so we want that to be 25%, 30% of your income or less to be that number. So a lot of times it's a lot less, but we don't want to exceed that number because that's what our guidelines are also telling us.
So I'm going to call a timeout real quick on that. Now, I want to speak directly to the people here again. Think about what he just said. How many times, the people that we've been through this before, hey, you're qualified for X, go have fun. And that's the max. They're trying to get you to basically buy as much house as you possibly can, because what do they want? They want that money. Mm-hmm. Charles has the heart of a teacher. And he's a coach in I don't know how many sports. Charles, man, every time I turn around, you got another picture of some other sport that you're coaching. But what you really want is somebody, whether it's Charles or somebody else. Charles is not the best fit for everybody, just like I'm not the best fit for everybody. But what we want to do is have you think. And if you're going to sit down with somebody, shouldn't they really have your best interest at heart? Shouldn't they really think, all right, wait a minute. I don't know what's best for you because I haven't asked enough questions. And just because you're qualified for $350,000, good night. Is that really what you need to be doing?
Right.
Have somebody like Charles, if not Charles specifically, have somebody that's willing to ask hard questions and dig down into your stuff to find out, what's best for you. Anyway, Charles, I know I interrupted. I'll be doing that quite a bit, but you hit on something that's really an emotional tie for me of don't just say you're there to help, actually be there to help. Anyway, go ahead, Charles.
Well, that's the big piece, because if you tell me you can afford a $2,000 a month payment, and let's just say that that's a $250,000 house, and completely hypothetical, no numbers are being quoted in any way, form, or fashion, right? But theoretically, you could afford, because of your income ratios, you could afford a $350,000 house. But if you're going to make that higher mortgage payment every month, you need to be comfortable with that. And the big piece here, again, when I bought my first house, I told them $750 a month. And a year later, that number jumped over $1,100 a month and almost put my wife and I into bankruptcy mode. And so we really have to dig into that piece. Like, what can you really pay for monthly? And so once we get those numbers figured out and we look at a credit report, we dive into what that looks like and, why are the numbers where they are? We want strong credit buyers. And so what we do is, if there's opportunities to help them increase their credit scores in the most ethical and moral ways, that we want to help them to do that. And that's more than just a credit number, a credit score. That affects not just your interest rates, but your ease through underwriting. It affects what your homeowner's insurance rate's going to be. Even outside of mortgages, it affects your auto insurance rates. So we want to help our people to understand what their credit is and how we can help to increase those numbers the best way that we can, and go from there. So after that conversation with, determining what their numbers look like and so forth, they're going to work with a guy like Dave to help them find a house. We're going to jump into the mortgage process, and ultimately we're going to kind of link arms virtually and skip that road with them, from everything from the initial disclosures, which discuss all the fees and the legal pieces. We want to make sure that they understand what they're doing there. We're going to go through order an appraisal, which is ultimately protecting the buyer, making sure that they're not spending more than they need to on what a house is. And we're going to go through that appraisal process with them. We'll order a survey to make sure that they understand where their boundary lines are for their property, make sure that there's not any issues on the survey, and there could be different pieces there. But the big variable is what hit me and my family was the escrow account. And I know a lot of people don't understand what that escrow account is. So inside your mortgage payment, you have your principal, your interest, you have mortgage insurance. That's not the same as homeowner's insurance. But we're also going to set up an account called an escrow account that's going to pay your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. And so every month you're depositing a set number, a set amount of your mortgage payment is going into this account, so that in December your taxes are paid for you. You don't have to worry about it. And then when the 1 year term is up on your homeowner's policy, it's paid for you. You don't have to worry about it. And so
I'm going to call a timeout again real quick.
Okay.
Because, and Johnny, I just saw you nodding like, oh, here it comes. Because this really, people, if you are a first-time homeowner, I can't tell you how important this is, because even at 49 years old, I messed up and changed my insurance and messed with my escrow. And guess what I had in the middle of the year? I had my payment go up twice because of it. And that was not a fun conversation with my wife. I can tell you that right now, because I was trying to save money. But what exactly did I do? Right? I cost myself a lot of money. So what Charles is really talking about, man, really, it's so important to get that right, and make sure that you're following up on it and keeping on top of it, because it's going to change annually because of, well, I'll let them talk about that as far as the ratios. But anyway, go ahead, Charles. I just wanted to make that point. That's so important.
Yeah.
That escrow.
So what happens, a lot of people just say, hey, we're looking at, a 30-year fixed mortgage, and that means that your interest rate is going to be the exact same for 30 years. So that portion of your monthly payment will always stay the same. It'll always be your principal and interest payment is X, and it'll stay the same for 30 years. When people's mortgage payment changes, that's because their taxes changed or their insurance changed, just like Dave mentioned. And so we want to do the best that we can to set that up on the front end to make sure that you don't get hit like my family did with an extra $400 a month a year out. And that wasn't because my house appreciated in value that much in a year. It was just because the escrow account wasn't set up properly to begin with. So those are pieces that we walk through, kind of continue down the path. We're going to submit all these documents that we request to verify every bit of information. We want to make sure that we are loaning money to good applicants and that we're secure in doing that. So our underwriters are going to, make sure we're following guidelines. And then the best phrase that every realtor loves to hear is clear to close. And that is the opportunity. That means, hey, we see the end. Like, we've been running the 800-meter race, and we turn that corner at 700 meters, and we see the finish line, and we're going to hit it for that last 100 meters. Once we get that clear to close, the file goes into our closing department. Excuse me. They're going to communicate directly with the title company to work out all the fees, make sure everything is balanced. And in a couple of days after that, we're going to go sit down in a title company. We're going to sign some papers, give some high fives and some hugs. Virtually right now, we have to do that. And then, congratulate you once again on owning a home. And when you walk away, you should be able to get the keys to your brand new house.
Very good. You know what?
Hey, Charles, could I ask you to hit on a couple things?
Absolutely.
There's two things that I want you to hit on, if you would, please. To me, one of the biggest problems that I have seen with escrow increase is when people buy in new neighborhoods. So if you could explain the difference between improved and unimproved taxes, I think that's a huge one, especially when Dave's talking about, he deals a lot with first-time home buyers. I think that's a huge issue and a huge problem inside of our business, and it drives me insane. The other thing that I'd like for you to hit on a little bit is when we talk about owning a home, when we talk about this, I'd like for you to explain, you do it better than anybody else on this call, is the realization you're paying a mortgage regardless. Unless you're living at your parents' house and living rent-free, you're paying a mortgage. But whose mortgage is it you're paying? If you'd hit on those two things for me, for Dave's audience, I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So let's take the easy one first. You are definitely paying a mortgage in any situation, right? And so if you're paying rent to somebody, let's say you're paying $1,500 a month in rent, that landlord is not giving you that house for free. He's making money. And so many, many, many times when we look at, when I talk to somebody about, well, what can you afford monthly? And they say, well, we're paying $1,500 a month now. When they go shop for a house, it is so much greater of a house than what they've been renting for so long. And so that landlord is taking, say $1,000 of that $1,500 and paying a mortgage on it, paying the property taxes and paying the insurance pieces that he has. And then he's pocketing that other $500. And so what we want to encourage you to do is let's look and see what $1,500 a month can buy you versus what you're living in now with rent. The other piece that I really want to hit on there is, there's a lot of protection in Texas with the homestead laws and owning a home, especially right now, as Johnny gets into it here in a few minutes. There's not as much protection regarding renters. And if you've got a landlord that will never fix something, and you call him and ask him for some relief, he's probably just going to say, just get out. But there are different options available when you own a house. The other piece that Johnny's talking about, we actually have a family that's building a house right now. And so when we look at the tax value and let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that the taxes for that property are $3,600 a year, we're going to be putting $300 a month into that escrow account. Well, what happens is if they have a lot, just a city lot or whatever that doesn't have a house on it, it's called unimproved because there's nothing there. It's just land that somebody's been mowing, right? So the tax value on that lot is very low. Let's say it's $300 a year. And so the difference is, and what we're working with our buyers on is we're going to look at that neighborhood tax value, and we're going to give as best of an estimate as we can on what that needs to look like so that you're depositing the correct amount in that escrow account. We're actually probably going to overshoot it a little bit because I would prefer you to call me and say, hey, my mortgage payment actually went down a little bit as the other way around.
Yeah. We probably want to, because I want to make sure we respect these people's time. What I'd like to do is probably do another video on this specifically, because I'm going to be working a lot with, and if this is you right now and you're watching this video at a later date, if you're relocating to Texas, you better understand what we're going to be talking about on the next time when it comes to taxes, especially if you're coming from California. Man, do we all not have friends coming from California, coming to Texas, and they're just so surprised. But let's switch gears real quick. I promise we'll do another video, and we'll cover it in depth. But I want to switch because what's happening right now with this fear. And Johnny, I'm gonna scroll this. Hold on one second. There you go. There are so many things being thrown around right now that could help people, but just like anything else, just like technology, just like anything, there's good and bad to everything, and it depends on if you're knowledgeable of it, or are you potentially going to get taken advantage of because you don't know the rules. There's a lot of things. I really enjoyed Johnny from the first time I met him because he's a really, believe it or not, he's a really smart guy. He really is, but he puts it in such layman's terms to where you understand it, but it's not like he's telling you what to do. And people, nothing that we're talking about is telling you what to do. We want you to be informed because we care about you. So Johnny, I can't tee you up anymore better than that. So why don't you talk to us about what in the world are all these terms that are going on right now, and what does that mean, and just what are the facts, if you could. Thank you, sir.
I think one of the things that you're talking about or you're alluding to is I did a video the other day explaining what forbearance was. Is that where you want me to go?
That's exactly right.
That's one of the terms right now that people are throwing around. And by this time, I had kind of gotten fed up with watching the news. If you're watching this at a later date, we're sitting right in the middle of COVID-19. It's the spring of 2020. And if you'll turn on the television and you'll watch any news broadcaster from any station anywhere in the country, they're dropping this term of forbearance. You need to run and get a forbearance. Make sure it's a pretty shiny forbearance. Get a new forbearance. They're using these terms that they have no idea what they're talking about. Forbearance, in definition, is a postponement of a payment. So when you went to closing, you signed a contract and you said, I agree to pay you X dollars a month for an amount of a term at X percentage rate. That doesn't change. It never changes. The only time it changes is if something changes that contract, that agreement. What could change that? Paying it off, refinancing it. Unfortunately, if you lose your house, you have changed the terms of that contract. Forbearance, in definition, what people don't understand is all you're doing is postponing payments. So the most popular forbearance plan that there is out there has always been this way, at least for the 26 years that I've been in this business. And it will allow you, as long as the agreement between you and this loan servicer, not the mortgage company. People always make that mistake. It's not the mortgage company, it's the loan servicer. There is an agreement between you and they're telling you that they're going to allow you to postpone X payments, and then at the end of that postponement, you owe all payments at the same time. So let me break that down, make it more easy. So right now, if somebody called in to their loan servicer and said, I want a forbearance, and the normal terms were agreed upon, what they will allow you to do is they'll allow you to miss your May payment, your June payment, July payment. That's pretty standard. But on your August payment due date, you now owe 4 payments at one time. So people don't understand exactly what forbearance is. So forbearance, in my opinion, there is a need for it. It is a special circumstance, but I personally would never recommend forbearance to anybody. I just can't think of a scenario where forbearance makes sense to anybody unless there are certain times. If you inherit a house and you can't necessarily afford to make up those payments while you're going through probate or whatever that is, maybe a forbearance plan makes sense there. But right now, what they're doing is telling people who are either their income has been limited, maybe they're on furlough, something along those lines, is just to plain and simple call up, make a forbearance plan, not realizing in 4 months you owe 4 payments. So if you're having a hard time paying $1,000 payment right now, my opinion is in 4 months you're going to have a really hard time paying $4,000 in payments at one time. So my opinion, and this is just strictly my opinion, is people should do some research. They should go on the internet. Google's right there. Look it up. Find out what it is. And maybe think about modification instead of forbearance. The difference between forbearance and modification, what a modification is when you make an agreement with that loan servicer that we're going to extend the terms or change the terms of our original contract agreement. So if our original contract agreement was for me to pay 4.5% interest on my mortgage, and I wanted to change that, my servicer has the ability to modify that if they want to. Most of the time they won't. If they want to, they have the ability to change that. Just like the term on your loan documents that you sign, there's a term. And I'm just going to use easy dates just because it's easier for me. Let's say on your term, your mortgage was due, the final payment was due on January of 2030. Well, if you're having a hard time now making those payments, a modification may be something as simple as, I cannot afford to make my payments right now. I cannot afford to make full payments right now, whatever that may be. I would like to modify my notes, and instead of my final payment being due on January 1st of 2030, what can we do about making my final payment due on January 1st of 2031 or July of 2031, whatever that may be. That's really up to the borrower and the servicing company. The other problem with this, when you do forbearance, is it shows up on your credit report because you're not paying as agreed. Even though you may think you are when you've made this forbearance agreement, you're not paying as agreed, and they cannot show on your credit report that you made your May payment, that you made your June payment, that you made your July payment. And what I've seen happening right now is I've seen investors, I've seen mortgage companies, and I've seen servicers. So, wait a second. If you're going to do a forbearance plan, you don't qualify for a refinance anymore. You don't qualify for a new purchase anymore. You're going to have to wait a period of time and basically rebuild your credit. Show me that you can pay as agreed on the contracts. Is that about what you're looking for, Dave?
Wow, man, that's a lot. That's a lot of meat on that bone right there. I tell you what, I was kind of looking at it, and I've got a friend of mine that's a probate lawyer, Matt Davidson, that I'm going to be having on in about a week. He
Awesome.
said right now he is so busy. He said he's busier than he was before, which, you think about it, just like going to a funeral. That's when you start thinking about things like this. Well, right now there's a lot of people, that are going through a lot harder stuff than we are in Texas, put it that way. But it's kind of like a balloon payment, on the forbearance, except for you're actually paying something, at least on the balloon payment. And balloon payments for an investor, because I did a little research on that whenever I was studying for the real estate exam, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you know what you're doing.
Correct.
This could be a good thing in the right situation. We're not saying it's not a good thing. We're saying the way, from what I'm hearing you say, the way that it's being touted and being thrown out there is it's a be-all, end-all and a get-out-of-jail-free card. And we're not saying that it's not something that you should look at. What we're saying is don't be naive, people. Get the
and to tell you the truth, Dave, right now it's very difficult because right during that same news broadcast, when some news broadcaster will say, get a forbearance, within minutes later, there will be a commercial for a car manufacturer that says, skip your first 3 payments. There'll be a car commercial that says, no payments due for 4 months, no payments due for 6 months, something along those lines. So I can see very clearly how someone who has never been in the finance business could kind of put the two together and say, well, if Ford is willing to let me miss 3 payments, why is, blah, 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 servicing company or mortgage company not allowing this?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think the biggest takeaway that we can have, people, is have a conversation with somebody that cares about you. It's kind of like a financial person. If somebody comes in and you go into a financial person and all they do is talk way over your head and make you feel like you're 2 inches tall, you need to just get up and walk away because that person does not deserve your money.
Absolutely.
They just don't.
Do that immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. Never tolerate that.
Yep. Same thing here. If whether it be just anybody that's in a service side, that they're there to help you. If they don't talk to you as your friend and that they really are trying to ask hard, I ask hard questions. I guarantee these guys ask hard questions very easily every time they sit down, because if we don't get the facts, my friends, we don't deserve your business. Because how can we direct you with the knowledge that we have in our profession unless we know what's important to you, unless we know what your long-term goals are? Not just your short-term goals, because your short-term goals might not match up with your long-term goals. And unless you have somebody that has a fiduciary responsibility that really thinks on your behalf, because maybe you're too emotionally wrapped up in whatever you're doing right now. Maybe you're in a state of fear and you're thinking that you're going to have to do this or that, but you haven't really talked to somebody that says, hey, let me put my heart aside real quick and let's just look at the facts. That's why I wanted to do this today, people. Because you deserve somebody that's going to just set you down and say, hey, look, let's just talk. Let's take away the emotion. We can spend all day crying with people, which we should. But at some point, we have to stop that, and we have to look at it with a level head and say, here are the facts. These guys are care enough to come on here with me today so that hopefully you can, if you're in that situation, if you are, we feel for you. If you're going through something and you've lost your job and you don't know how to make your mortgage, I couldn't imagine right now what that would be like. But you know what? There's people out there. These guys right here, right? Google them, right? I guarantee they'll have a conversation with you. If you don't know and you have my number, right, call me, 817-691-2910. I have over 3,000 people in my phone from whenever I was in corporate America. I probably know somebody, whether it be a mortgage or something else. I'm here to help. These gentlemen are here to help. I want to thank you for your time today. We're going to do this again. If you like it, right, what you're seeing right now, it's on Facebook, but I'll edit this thing and we'll put it down. But right down here below, wait a minute, let's see, there it is, right down below. Hit that bell, make sure, ring that bell, right? Hit that subscribe button. We'll help you out, right? I'm here to help y'all. If you're relocating from out of state, people, you need somebody that's going to be there for you and it's going to look out for you. That's all I want to do. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for your time today, right? The Lord bless you, right? And if you're watching this for the first time, man, you know what? If you've seen me before, you know how I'm going to end it, right? There's 2 things. There's 2 things. If you don't listen to anything else today, you remember these 2 things. Number 1, God loves you. And number 2, you know I do as well. Y'all have a blessed day, my friends. All right? We'll see you later.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
y'all.
Have a great day.